Hello everybody, good evening. On behalf of the Catherine McEwan Foundation, a very good evening to everybody. My name's Richard Russell, I'm one of the consultants at the Children's Hospital in Edinburgh, and I'm delighted this evening to have a very special guest with us, Rick Parfitt Jr. Rick, how are you getting on?
I'm good, hang on, I've just got to switch the volume down on my phone so I can see the comment. Hi everyone, how you doing? It's, I'm an absolute technophobe, so this is going to be quite interesting.
I'm not going to be too loud then. I'll turn my volume down already. I think we know a bit about you, Rick, but we'd be really interested to hear about your particular journey with your IBD. So maybe if you can just tell us where it all started for you.
Sure. Firstly, hi everyone. Thank you for joining us. And before I sort of go into bore everyone with my little Crohn's journey, I've got to obviously applaud Richard and everyone in the NHS what they do for obviously not keeping the whole country going, but also us cronies going through all of this as well. So, well done, Rich, and well done everybody who's involved in that sort of thing. And so where did my journey kind of began? When I was 9. As you can imagine, I was born into a fairly rock and roll world, and it was fairly crazy times at my house most of the time. I was sent off to boarding school quite early, and started to develop tummy pains and stuff like that from 7, 8-ish, and it was progressively getting worse and worse. And then I kept going to hospital, and they always said that nothing was actually wrong with me and that I just had gastroenteritis or a bad tummy bug or something like that. And I'm sure a lot of other people have had those similar sort of things. And then, I was in Germany on holiday with my German side of the family, and ended up in a big hospital in Göttingen, where they finally, I was quite unwell, and they said that it was Crohn's. Yeah. And in those days, it was not the most well-known illness, because I'm pretty old. And
I was going to ask you, what age were you when you were finally diagnosed, and what kind of time was that in?
Yeah, I was 9, so it was fairly young, to be honest, I would say.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, I thought you had the symptoms from 9, so you're diagnosed age 9, and that was in what decade?
It's a while ago.
So it's really to help, because I know that a lot of the members of the foundation have had their own journeys, and some of the journey depends on when it happened and how well known it was at the time. So I think did you say the 80s?
Yeah, it would have been around the time of Van Halen. Yeah.
Okay. So how were you treated, or what are your early memories of what treatment involved for you?
Well, it was interesting because, it's funny, isn't it? Because when you talk to lots of people with Crohn's, they all seem to have gone through a similar sort of thing. So I know that I was very anemic, and that my iron levels were very, very low, and I was sent back to boarding school with iron supplements and stuff like that. And initially I was put onto a heavy course of steroids, and then obviously azathioprine, and that sort of continued all the way sort of through the next few years. I'd manage it, get bad, manage it, get bad, manage it, get bad. And that kind of came to a head when I was at my 6th form in my A-levels. I was getting really, really bad. This was about, obviously 17, 18 years old. And at that time I was on meds 5 times a day. And so I was at my school, and I had a little watch with 5 alarms on. And I would basically, and I had a little sort of a pouch around my neck with my daily pills in. And so every time the alarm went off, I had to take another pill, and all stuff like that. So it was quite a sort of a horrific time. And then at 21, it all came to head. It all came to a head, and I was under quite a preeminent sort of gastroenterologist and surgeon called John Herman Taylor, who was trying me on lots of experimental things, bless him. and most of there was one, I remember, this orange pill which was giving me. Which, actually, John, can I mute you? So, because I can hear John coming through here, and hang on, sorry, let me just mute John. That's all right. So yeah, so at 21, yeah, I was in no, John Herman Taylor was actually trying to try me on lots of stuff. He was obviously dedicated his life to try and find something to deal with Crohn's. And I remember this treatment that he gave me, and this pill made me bright orange. No joke. Like literally, if we could have patented it, like the cast of Towie would have bought it in bulk. Let me tell you, because this stuff was mad. I don't know what was in it, and it didn't really work. But it turned my pee bright red and me bright orange. And one pill burst in my throat and burnt the whole of my throat. And his sort of response was, "Well, that didn't work, did it?" And I was like, "Not really, fella." But it got worse and worse. And then that's when I had my first major bowel resection, was at 21. And in fact, it was I remember being in hospital at St George's in Tooting. And it was my birthday. I was 21 years old. I weighed just over 5.5 stone.
Oh my goodness.
And I couldn't walk or do anything, and the pain was absolutely horrific. And then I woke up and thought, well, at least the worst is over. And then they told me that I'd had massive internal bleeding, and so they had to go in again. So the second day, I went back down, had to be put under. They had to go in again and fix it all up. So that was a tough old time. So I've always said to all my friends and everyone who knows me well, my life kind of really started at 23. Because up until all that time through my teens, I was very, very thin. And what a lot of people don't understand about Crohn's is that, because it's invisible illness, they might see that you're very thin. So right the way through my teens, I was very thin, and you become quite insecure because you don't go to parties, you don't want to socialise because of the loo situation and the pain situation. And basically, it mentally leaves quite a scar, and I would say that I still carry a lot of those scars with me today. But it took a long time for me to sort of deal with all the things that happened when I was younger with the Crohn's, which is insecurity. I used to dress like an onion, with like 4 or 5 layers with a roll neck, just to kind of hide the fact how thin I was, And at that age, in the sort of mid to late teens, when you really are, your character is being created and you want to set the world alight, it's kind of tough, So that was it. So at 21 was the first major bowel resection. Yeah.
It's like sending questions through for you. If you want to pick them up yourself.
Sorry, I'm just saying. So, Jude, I just see Jude at such a young age, coping at boarding school must have been hard. Yeah, I was sent to boarding school at 6, and but it was a very rock and roll household, so it's probably better for me, to be honest. There were nurses at school, and they did the best they can, but they weren't trained. They were it was just being in school, and then I actually had to sit back a year because I spent when I was about sort of 10 or 11, I think I spent the majority of the year in and out of hospital, and so it got so bad that I had to sit back a year. So, but that was fine because just got on with it. That's it.
What you've been talking about is, very common themes, from the Catherine McEwan Foundation. And I wonder, you have an IBD nurse now, and when was the first time you maybe got involved with IBD nurses? Because as you said, school nurses and things are there to look after lots of different things, but I would doubt they've maybe heard of Crohn's disease. I would doubt it in children. So do you have one now, and what's your experience been?
Yeah, well, like I said, at 23, I got better. And then after, as most people do when they have the surgery, and obviously they take the bad bits out, all of a sudden you feel well, and But the thing about Crohn's is it comes back. So from 23 onwards, and I started putting on weight, and I went a little bit crazy, kind of in the sense of having to make up for lost time, I guess. And I had a little, yeah. Yeah, feel free, everyone. You can send stuff through, and I'll answer them as best I can. But to answer your IBD stuff, to if anyone else is watching, yeah, I mean, when I started to get bad again, which you have this sort of the 10-year period towards 2010, I it was getting really bad again, and then obviously that from then on, I've really started to engage with Jeremy Sanderson and his team, and so I've pretty much had the same team for the last sort of 20 years now, and 15, 20 years, and they're amazing, and I'm very lucky that they've been massively supportive, and especially in this last the run up to this last one, which I had 3 months ago. I'm very happy to say it was a really amazing success. Andy Williams did an incredible job. And it's quite funny. I always make the joke that he knows me inside and out. He genuinely does now. He's operated on me several times, and so he knew exactly where to go, and that was good. And so that was great. And the team are amazing. The team are absolutely amazing, and I don't get any special treatment or anything. We're all just one big Crohn's community, and their whole sole purpose is to get you back on your feet and well as quick as possible, and to get you managed as well as possible as well. So, I feel very lucky that we've got amazing people such as Richard and everyone else to call on, and that help us through, and basically help us create our careers. Because what people don't realise is, and what a lot of employers don't realise, is how Crohn's affects you. One day you can be well, the next you can be bad. You can be horrifically fatigued because you haven't slept because of the pain. Employers don't understand that, and that's why we try and raise as much awareness. And it's good that people now know more about Crohn's, because when I had my day job, before I gave it off to go and sing for a living, they found it quite difficult. And of course, with all the grading of the scaling of when you're in and when you're off days and all that, and you have to justify it to HR through your doctors and stuff like that, it's quite a hard thing for employers to understand. So to hold down a job is really tough. So let's have a look. So how well do you think your friends and family understand your condition? Thanks, Jude. I think I'm very lucky. I've always been very upfront with my family and my friends, and once you get over all the insecurities and all the embarrassing symptoms, it took me a long time to be happy with it, and then all my friends, I was very straight up, and I'd make a joke about it all. And so the great thing is, what I do now, my little support network, I've got an amazing wife who is just, another thing, going into how the workplace can suffer, relationships can suffer as well. For years, I didn't want to let anyone, get close to me, in the sense I'd always play this part, this almost acting thing that I thought people wanted me to be like as the son of a rock star and all that sort of malarkey. And but that was never really me. And so, away from just searching for who you really are as a person, you need someone who can complement that. And I'd never want to show everyone the other side, which was, the pain, the loo trips, the embarrassing symptoms that come with Crohn's, and just basically all the mental stuff. So yeah, I'd never let anyone get very close until I met my wife, Rach, who is amazing. And she was the first person that really didn't care about any of that, and was amazingly supportive, and just really liked me for who I was. And it was like a bit of an epiphany, whereby you could suddenly go, I don't need to try to be something else. I can just be who I am, and this is it. And I do come with this hassle, unfortunately, and it didn't make any difference. And so I think it's very important for anyone who suffers with Crohn's just to be very upfront. I think if people don't find it embarrassing, it won't be embarrassing. If you're not embarrassed about it, they won't be embarrassed about it. So it's good to be upfront and tell people.
I think Keep the questions coming. There's a good one related to that from Jenny Cook, who said, "What advice would you give your teenage self now?" I mean, I think what we're dealing a lot with is teenagers who are understandably, can be shy or embarrassed about the condition. And if you were looking back, I guess you didn't meet your wife as a teenager, although I don't know. How would you reflect back on, you might have done things differently as a teenager, looking back now, or?
Yeah, well, it's easy. It's so easy for someone to say, just try and be confident in yourself, because when you have Crohn's and you're going through all the stuff with it, it's really difficult to feel confident in any social situation, and perhaps with body issues and everything else that comes with it. It's really tough. So something that kind of worked for me, which I've always, as most people know, I race a lot, and race cars. You can probably see a few things behind me. But
about your other lifestyles, so you might want to just tell them a bit about how you're balancing your lifestyle and your Crohn's disease as well as your reflections.
Well, I'll get to that. So what I was going to answer your question before was, I found go-karting, and I know this sounds a bit crazy, but there was like an indoor circuit, and I'd go down there and I'd put a race suit on and a helmet on, and for the first time people weren't looking at me as that skinny kid, because I felt I could hide by wearing a race suit and a helmet, and I turned out to be quite good at that. And then I really started to win quite a lot in that. And then I went out and really got heavily involved in motorsport, and I went and raced, got spotted and raced for a manufacturer. And that brought my confidence back in myself, and also introduced me to a social circle that weren't judging me on anything other than our shared love of the motorsport. So the best thing I could say now is to anyone in teenagers, you know what, if there's something you love, go and find other like-minded people and do, whether it's a hobby, whether it's something like that, go and do that and really immerse yourself in that. And I want to swear here, and don't give up monkeys what anyone else thinks, because at that age they're probably not mature enough to actually process what you're going through, because they can't understand it. When you're young, you think you know everything, but you don't, and and so they can't process it. So it's easier to make fun of it. It's easier to make fun of something, or to find it a bit weird, or to not associate with it, rather than it is to engage it. And so if you find people who have a shared passion to you, everything else can go to one side, and you can just find your own persona and find your own confidence through a shared something that you love. So that was what worked with me. So with regards to what you were saying about how to balance my life, well, for 12 years, I worked in an office and, sold in motorsport. I loved motorsport and had to go and get a job. So I worked for a magazine called Autosport magazine and sold ads from the little ones, and then worked my way up. But I was always singing in the same time. And so eventually, I won't give you the life story, but I was getting noticed in event world, and I decided that rather than going the fame route, which is too difficult, and also I was very prejudged because of who my dad was, that I saw that there was a gap in the market in event world to actually put a band on, not like a normal covers band, but a band that does play other people's songs, but does it in a, not all the safe stuff, but massive rock show, and so I got some of the best session musicians in the UK together, and I remember walking into my boss's office, at Haymarket, and going, I'm off to be a rock star. And they sort of went, of course you are, mate, patted me on the back and went, see you in 6 months. And to be honest, I genuinely thought that I might well be back, but luckily it took off, and it's been kind of great ever since. And so I have a hectic lifestyle. We play between 90 and 100 gigs a year all over the world for big companies and festivals as well. And we were this is the strange thing about this summer, we were headlining 6 festivals as well, mid-sized festivals, which was great. And sadly, obviously, that's all being postponed. But will come back, and also the racing for the last 9 years as well. So I always wanted to try to put out a story that whatever you want to achieve, even with having this, you can do it. You've just got to go full on and find your passion and go and do it, and don't let anything stop you. Because there are plenty of people who said, you can't do this, and I had a lot of friends, obviously working for Autosport magazine, who were racers. I know a lot of the F1 guys and all of that, but I was never going to get into a race car, even though I'd won a lot in go-karts. So that was never going to happen. Yeah. Where would I find the money? Where would I find the sponsorship and all of this? And so I worked hard, and then I worked my way through the ranks, and now, I'm the only person to have ever won both GT4 and British GT4 and GT3 titles, something no one else has done. Gave Bentley their first ever pole position, gave Bentley their first ever domestic title, and their first ever win for the new version 2 car. And there's quite, so, and I would never have thought to have been able to achieve that, and also to be able to do the amount of gigs we do, and also to be on stage in front of thousands, and it's amazing. But the Crohn's is always there. When I'm racing, people have seen I've been getting into the car in absolute agony. In Silverstone 2017, I remember the warm-up lap is so long at Silverstone, and you have to put heat into the tyres. So I was really, and I was second on the grid, and I just thought, I can't fight this guy. I have to get in front, and just because the quicker I finish my stint, the quicker I can go and sort of collapse in my motorhome. So, I was in so much pain, and just the sheer movement. I was so close to just puking in my helmet, that it was, and all the teams have known over the years just to deal with my Crohn's. I've had to I've had to get a special dispensation, to race, and because I'd be using prednisolone on occasions to get on top of the inflammation and stuff, and so it's been a tough old ride, but in fact, you can do it anyway.
So I think
some questions.
There's a few questions coming through. I think Susan Daly, was the first one to come through, and she's asking, do you think because of the support group that it helps you do what you want in life? I think you've answered that, to be honest.
Yeah. I'm just saying, she think people with the Crohn's have this fantastic outlook on life. That's good, yeah.
What advice do you have?
We're all just reading. We're always reading. Sorry, Lucy, I'm just reading yours now. As a musician, how do you feel touring and gigging affected you physically, but also did it have a positive effect mentally? That is a really good question. So this is Lucy Mincher. It's absolutely had an amazing effect on me, because you still have to have the confidence, and so by setting yourself little goals, and I set myself quite big goals, I never thought I'd achieve them, but working towards it, having a positive mental attitude does help, obviously, even though it won't get rid of the pain and it won't do that, but doing something you love and finding a passion, whether it's a hobby, could be anything, getting that positivity from something really helps you. Music is always been a great thing for me. I mean, I've grown up around it, and I've been very fortunate, and I've seen some amazing people and met some amazing people along the way. But trust me, and I won't go into this, it's not, my upbringing was not what everyone thought. There's a saying that which is sarcastic, where people say, there's nothing as well balanced as the kids of Rockstars. We've got a chip on both shoulders, basically, and that's kind of true, because you're always in the shadows, and you can never create your own persona. So having my own outlet in music and being judged on my own merits was a great thing, and so yeah, it's a good thing. So just do what you love. I hope that answers that, Lucy. Let's do what Shona says. How did your parents deal with your diagnosis, and what would you advise a parent team? Right, that's another good one. Okay, so I don't think my dad really knew how to deal with it, very well. And I remember one time he actually said, "Well, you're not ill," and I actually sort of pushed him up against the wall, and I said, "You have no idea what I'm going through or what I have to deal with on a daily basis." And but knowing Dad, there was probably some alcohol involved, so you know. And I'm glossing over it a bit. And my mum obviously is the polar opposite, the smother mother, basically, in the sense that, you know, she would try immensely hard with everything, and so it's almost over fussing, and so you don't. So I pushed that away as well. So I felt like I had to deal with it, a lot of it, by myself. But luckily, my extended family was amazing as well, especially in Germany. I got treated a lot in Germany, and my mum's sister Astrid and my grandmother and grandfather were great. And you know, and not saying that my mum was great at all, you know, but my dad's just my dad, you know, and so it was a difficult time. I remember actually going back to this on the 21st, when I was 21st, you know, I'm in the hospital bed, I'm 5.5 stone, I've got a balloon saying happy 21st. And, you know, and you sort of feel, you look down at yourself, you know, you're skinny as a rake, right? And you can't walk, you're all cut open. And you sort of think to yourself, is this it? Is this what my life is going to be? Just a whole load of pain and just being insecure and suffering and always going to be alone. And I remember my parents came in, and you know, and my dad gave me a birth. This is a classic dad, right? You know, he gave me a birthday card which said, "Happy birthday. At 21, Richard Branson had opened 7 stores. At 21, this guy had done that. At 21, this guy." And I just went, "Yeah, thanks for that, mate." You know, and I asked them politely to leave, I think, and so they went. And all the nurses were really sweet. I was having a really bad day. And this is all part and parcel of the mental thing that Crohn's carries with you. And then later in the evening, one of my best friends from around where I was in Twickenham, that's where I lived, sort of popped his head round because I pulled the curtain around my bed. And he sort of popped his head round and he said, "Look, you know, we've got to try and get you up and you've got to try and have a walk." And I said, "Look, mate, I don't want to do it. I don't want to see anyone. I don't want to do anything." He said, "It's just me. It's just me." And he said, "The nurses told me we've got to get you up." So it was the most painful thing, sitting up and then trying to walk. And then so I shuffled, and we shuffled a bit and shuffled downstairs. And all my friends from Twickenham had come, and they'd bought like a birthday cake. I'm get welled up about it as well, because, you know, it was such a lovely thing to do, that they'd sort of in the foyer of the hospital. And that was one of the loveliest things ever. But at the same time, it was tainted with, you know, a bit of sadness, because I didn't want anyone seeing me like that. You know, I didn't want them to see me at my lowest ebb and in that sort of shape. And so that just sort of shows what it's like, really. Yeah.
But then after that, you took great inspiration from it, and I think, well, literally didn't look back. It sounded like. I think we missed one from Gary McEwan, who was just asking about how you stay fit with regard to your general fitness and with Crohn's disease. How do you balance them?
Right. Well, it's like anything. I think you just try and do whatever you can. With me, I've always been one of those people. I was always, when I got my energy back, I was always kind of really hyper and always running, always doing stuff. As I've got a little bit older, as obviously no one here in the messages is, because they're all young and fit and sprightly. But as you get older, you definitely start, the metabolic rate starts to slow. So luckily, I think my gigging keeps me fit, which is funny because that's what Dad used to say as well. But I truly think that when you do a run of gigs like we do, you know, we're not just sitting there. We're not doing a Westlife set. Our set is full on stadium, kick ass, and you always come off absolutely drenched. And I only know one way to perform, and that is 110% every single time. It doesn't matter how tired I am, how little sleep I've had, how much pain I am. The one thing my dad always used to say to me is that it doesn't matter how tired you are, you always have to find the energy to do it, right? You know, he said, and you always will. You will dig deep and you will find it. And he's right, because you always do, and you can collapse off stage, but these people have paid to come and see you, or they've paid for your band to come and play, so you deserve to give them the best possible show. And that's one thing I've sort of taken. So fitness wise, I'm not a gym freak. I've tried it and I just find it boring. I'm competitive. If I have to beat someone, then I'll do it. But going into a gym and self-motivating is just rubbish. And my wife here, whilst we've been on lockdown, naturally, my wife's tried to get me to do the Joe Wicks thing, and just everything hurts. My knees hurt, my back hurts. I can't do it. So I can't wait to get on gigging again, because I think I'm starting to pile it back on. Oh, come on, Gary. Joe Wicks, that's the way. Don't do what I do. Happy birthday, Gary. Happy birthday, mate. How is it? I'm not far behind you. Just let me know how it is.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to being 50 sometime.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think a lot of people are really coming through with very positive comments about your honesty, and I think that is, I would very much agree with them. I wonder just if you could tell us what your experience was like of just before your current operation. I think you went through some nutritional treatment. What was that like for you?
Well, the operation was a long time coming again. I had the second one in 2010. As I said, I got my life back, went absolutely nuts. And then so the 10-year horrificness reared its head. But to be perfectly honest, I've been pretty unwell for the last 2.5 years, I would say, 2 to 3 years. And I've been kicking it down because of all commitments, gigs and racing. I just couldn't take the time off. It's like anything, we've all got to make a living. And at the same time, if I'm not gigging or racing, I'm not getting paid. So I would always, as with most people, you bury your head. But then, of course, you'll get a flare-up which knocks you out for 4 days, 5 days, where I moved down to the spare bedroom because you can't sleep. As anyone knows with Crohn's, the pain comes and it's contractual, and it comes and it builds and it builds and it builds and it builds and it builds. And it gets to the absolute excruciating where you cannot bear it anymore, and then it just washes away and you just feel so sick and so ill, and you just wait for the next wave to come, which is in a few minutes' time, and night after night for that. So I knew that the race teams would see me in the motorhome. I wouldn't put it out when I'm in. I wouldn't show it to people, but my ex-teammate Seb Morris, who's now a factory Bentley driver, all my teammates would really support me in that, and the team were very well versed in how to get the best out of me and when to push me and when not to push me. So coming up to this, I knew that this was time. Last season I was really struggling again, and I thought that I was brought in by Andy, and he said, look, if we don't operate now, we're probably going to have to, it's going to be an emergency, and we're going to have to just get in and slash everything about and probably take the whole thing out. So he said it in no uncertain terms. He didn't mince his words, and so that's when you sort of go, okay, fair enough. So, but this was the first time we'd done this preparation where we went on Modulin, which he said, you've got to be on a liquid diet for 8 weeks. And as anyone knows, I love my food. And so I was like, oh God, that's going to be tough, especially as it was over Christmas as well. So, with both families and all this sort of stuff in Germany and here, where the food is a big thing. But actually, you know what? It was absolutely fine. Once you get over the initial hunger, the Modulin, it's just like a milkshake, and I added sort of Nesquik to it, like strawberry or banana, and I sort of, mixed it up. So yeah, I did really. It's great. It's great. I actually really liked it. It was just like having a milkshake. I got on well with it, and I don't think even my wife thought I was going to make it through. But I stuck to it absolutely rigidly all the way through Christmas. I even cooked Christmas dinner for the rest of the family, and then just had my little shake and got through it. But it was good because it chilled. It took all the heat out of the infection, and obviously, from my perspective, being someone who gigs and races for a living, having a bag, I didn't know what the consequences are. If I was to have it, it's not an issue. I know there are loads of people who it's totally given their lives back, and that's wonderful. But obviously, with regards to the seat belts and race car and also jumping around like I do on stage, I was a little bit worried about how that would affect how I perform. Obviously, I would have got over it and worked around it, but I wanted to give him the best possible chance to actually negate that. Saying that, I did meet with the stoma nurse, and it was all marked up where it would be, and and that's it. And so we went all the prep. But yeah, so I prepped for 8 weeks, didn't do anything except for clear fluids and modulin. And luckily, the operation took 5.5 hours. There were quite a few things he had to do. There was full fistulated at the top, which they had to undo them all and sort of redo it. And then they had to take a massive section out, I think sort of about 20 centimetres, 30 centimetres out of my lower intestine. I think there was something down with my sigmoid as well. So it took, I think it was 5.5 hours, the operation. And so it was a biggie. And but it had to be done. And thankfully, the preparation was I think definitely worked and helped. And so when I woke up, I was told I didn't have a bag, which is wonderful. But as we all know with Crohn's, if it comes back, that's a very distinct possibility. And like with most people, and I'm very much active in the Crohn's and colitis forums and stuff, even though I'm not posting a lot, I keep an eye, and some of the stories there are absolutely inspirational about how people are just, being really confident, getting out there and going sunbathing and just embracing it. You know what? And that is what we need. We need everyone to just show and tell everyone about this so that people understand. So it's just normalized, and that's the best way for it. So yeah, there you go. I see that, Dorothy Brody, my bag has given my life back, and that's the best thing ever. Yeah, I hear that a lot. And you know what? I drew strength from that, from a lot of people saying that as well, because that was, obviously I was paranoid, going, oh, as most people are, going, oh no, I'll have a bag, and what am I going to do? How am I going to jump on stage? What if it bursts? All this sort of stuff. And you know what? But then I read up and I looked at a lot of people, what they were saying, and I knew that if it happened, I'd just get on with it. So if some people are drawing something from my story, rest assured that I've actually taken a lot from everyone else's stories as well.
Yeah. And how are you feeling now?
This is the crazy thing. The first few weeks of recovery was pretty nasty, I would say, to be honest. And but now, it's amazing. It's amazing. It really is amazing. To be able to go to bed and sleep and wake up and have no pain is just, as most people know, if you suffer from anything, from migraines or any form of pain or chronic pain or arthritis or whatever, and you get used to it, right? When you finally get to a point where you don't have it, you feel like it's the greatest thing in the world. What people don't realize is that feeling normal is amazing. And people don't realize that normality is the best and greatest thing that you could ever possibly have. So, yeah, I'm really good, and I'm able to eat most things again now, even though it's psychologically a bit weird to have onions or something like that, which before I would absolutely avoid like the plague, because it would be instant pain and instant flare up. And even though I'm still avoiding them a little bit, but in most cases I'm eating everything again and feeling well. So I just hope that it continues, because I've still got a lot of things to achieve, as has everyone else.
And what medicines are you on now? Are you still on some, or? Yeah,
I'm on Stelara. So so I self-inject once every 8 weeks, and that seems to, before, up until this, even though the flare-ups were bad, I think it was showing that it wasn't making it worse. It was just bad. So it wasn't. So I think the Stelara was doing its job. So I didn't get on with infliximab. If anyone's had that, Shona, I see that feeling normal feels weird. I know, right? Isn't it just the most crazy thing ever? I know it's strange to feel normal, but and I'm a bit welling up emotionally about that, because it's true. It is true. feeling normal is weird. And when you tell people that, you know, they sort of don't get it, but they don't know how blessed they are, I guess, in that way. Yeah. So I'm still on Stelara. Yeah, I inject once every 8 weeks, and we'll see what happens. But hopefully, fingers crossed, you know, it'll give me a few years good health now. So it's up to me to actually go out and do something and get myself together, and maybe do a bit more fundraising or something, you know, or do a run or something. I hate running. Can I jump out of something? Maybe I'll jump out of something. I don't know.
How are you coping with the lockdown?
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? It's I think everyone struggles a little bit, but I feel very lucky because, first of all, I feel healthy. I'm able to share my house with my amazing wife. I've got a great dog. You know, we've got a little bit of outside space. Our dogs are the best. Charlie Parf is the best. And he's also got his own Instagram. You should check him out, Charlie Parf Dog. And oh, there we go. There we go. Oh, that's so cute. Oh, that's so cute. So I'm just seeing Jude Curry saying, am I having to self-isolate at home whilst on the injections? This is an interesting thing. I spoke to Jeremy about this, because obviously Stelara is an immunosuppressant. Now, don't take my word for it, but he, as far as I know, because I've seen a lot of this in the Crohn's forums as well, whether we're more at risk. But as far as I'm aware, even though you're on immunosuppressants, we're not actually more at risk. Is that right, Richard?
So a couple of things just to say there. Stelara does damp down your immune system, but it would be called a biologic rather than an immunosuppressant. But for patients who are well on their biologic or their immunosuppressant, they just have to practice strict social distancing. So you don't have to self-isolate. You don't have to be shielded, which is the most severe category that, you know, a small proportion of patients with Crohn's disease are in, but the majority are on either infliximab, azathioprine, Stelara, all those types of medicines. If you're keeping well and if you've been on them for 6 weeks or more, then just stick to the rules very strictly. So strict social distancing, be very careful about things, but you know, you can go out for your exercise or practice your band in the back garden or something.
So we'll do the Bruce Forsyth thing where he goes, nice to meet her, 2 meter. Nice. Yeah, there you go. Let's have a look. Do you think Crohn's isn't really... Sorry, this is from Barry Cook. He says, do I think Crohn's has installed the competitive part to you? As the parent of a teenager with IBD, I find the determination and that and many others and commitment unbelievable. I think for me, there's 2 parts. Yeah. I think for me, obviously growing up with someone who's well known is difficult because you need to create your own persona, and it's very, very difficult if you are. And I'm sure many other people who have parents who are in the public eye for whatever reason, politicians, whatever, will probably realise this as well. You get prejudged, and so there is a competitive sort of instinct to actually create who you are in your own, and to be judged on your own merits. But at the same time, I was always mad into sports since I was a kid, right? I'd always want to run faster. I'd want to win everything, and getting Crohn's kind of, I guess, made it even more important to try and prove a point, I guess, you know. And so when we won British GT, actually, let me show you. Here we go. This was the first time I won. I can probably show you this. Oops, it's pretty big, but that's the. Yeah, that was British GT4 title in 2013, and to win this meant so much because I started motor racing. I was karting. People realised I was quick, but when I went into cars in the big boys world, people were just going, "Oh, he's just the son of a rock star, whatever." But you know, and then so when I won the GT4 series in my first year, people started taking notice. And so for me, it's a lot more than that. And then let me just put this back.
It's a big trophy.
Yeah. And then in 2017, you know, I got the call. In 2016, I got the call from Bentley to race with Team Parker. And in this car here, and that car there, well, not this actual one, it was a bit bigger. Which was a massive honour because it was the first time they were back. And I was partnered with this young guy called Seb, who was very, very quick. I've known him since he was like this big, like this little helmet with hands, you know, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm partnering this kid. And we turned up and we gave them their first ever on the first round. We stuck it on pole, and that was an amazing moment. And we finished third in that year. And then in 2017, in this car here, that one, the Stobart sponsored, we went on to win, and it was an amazing over all the other factory teams with amazing drivers. The Stig was in the series. I can't say who it is, but he was in, and lots of other international amazing drivers. Actually, hang on, I can show you. This is so that was the 2017 championship. You know, that was which was a good moment as well. And but yeah, so. Similar, yeah, or a big trumpet. It looks a bit big like trumpet, you know. So it's definitely something where I wanted to prove a point, and now the whole paddock and a lot of the motorsport fraternity know about Crohn's, and it all came to one thing in 2017 when I won that. There's a club called the BRDC, which is the British Racing Drivers Club, which is the most sort of prestigious sort of motorsport club in the world. And they've got, if anyone knows Silverstone, they've got a big sort of a thing there, and you have to be invited to join. And it's all the Formula One drivers. There's only 800 people worldwide. I got a fantastic letter from Derek Warwick, who was a former Formula One driver, saying that they'd awarded me. They wanted to award me 2 awards: the Innis Island and the John Cobb Memorial Trophy. And so I can't show you the trophies, but they give you these because the trophies stay in the clubhouse, but you get a BRDC award like that. And what's amazing about these awards is that I look down the names that are on here, you know, Lewis Hamilton, Jensen, Damon Hill, Sterling Moss, and then me, you know. And it was just, I remember shaking because I went to collect it in front of all these people who I had so much respect for, and everyone was standing up and giving me, because they said that I'd achieved it through adversity. And yeah, that was another amazing moment. I remember my wife went, this is pretty big, isn't it? And that was a real point where I thought, right, I've done it. I've cemented something, and I've achieved something through this, so that others hopefully can maybe be a little bit inspired by it. And I've got recognition from the best in the world at it, you know, and that was an amazing moment for me. So everything, but it's taken a long time to get there. So my advice is to everyone with Crohn's is little steps. A little win every day will set you on a ladder, and you don't have to all go and do the craziness that I have, which is just ridiculous, quite frankly, and is just sheer bloody mindedness. But everything can be your own championship win. You know, it can be, you know, getting that bonus at work, getting through a year, you know, of good health, and inspiring maybe someone else to, you know, making someone happy. This is the great thing I love about my job with music, is that I go out in front of people and I make them happy. And, you know, you come off stage thinking we've done an absolutely mega job. And that is the greatest thing in life. I feel very, very blessed that both my what I do is makes others happy. And if I can inspire people to do that, then that's great. So little wins every day for everyone. Just set yourself little tasks, you know. Oh, gosh. Sorry, I've been talking too much. Sorry, I didn't.
what I can say is just on behalf of everybody from the foundation, they found your words very inspiring, as have I, and I think the way that you've battled through all your difficulties with Crohn's disease, and it's given you the resilience and inspiration to achieve many things, I think has been a great message of positivity to everybody. So I think we'd like to all say thank you for sharing your story. I could honestly sit here and talk all night to you, but I think we have to.
Sorry. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for all your questions. Thanks, Lorraine. Thanks, Jude. Thanks, Kenny. Thanks, Tracy. Thanks, Jude again. Thanks, Dorothy. Thanks, Barry. Thanks, Gary. Thanks, Lance, Shona, Kenny again, Dorothy again, Kenny a lot, and everyone else who's come in and sort of listened. Thanks very much. It's very sweet.
On behalf of the foundation, if you could like the page, please, and promote it to other people and share it with everybody. These inspirational messages need to be heard far and wide. We're hoping to do a further series of talks, not the same as this one, because nobody's the same as Rick, but talking to IBD nurses, and we're very aware of the mental health side of things, so trying to have a Q&A around mental health during lockdown and life with Crohn's disease. So we'll see you all back soon. Rick, thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
Keep safe, everyone. Keep safe.
Bye.